Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jackie and this is Jacqueismaking, a place where I talk all about the knit garments, accessories, and sometimes sewing projects that I have going on. And today I'm just going to be going through a normal podcast episode where I'm excited to walk you through, I believe, 4 of my top whips that I have in rotation right now, and I'm excited to show you some of the progress that I've made on some of them. So believe it or not, I'm actually wearing 3 knits right now. So if I start sweating during this video, that is why. However, it's 40 degrees outside here in Wisconsin. So I thought now is the time to get in the really deep fall spirit. We're finally in November. And yeah, it just felt like the right outfit to wear to film today. So first I'm wearing the weekend hat and I knit this up in Fiber MacGyver's Shanaco yarn. And I'll leave some more details for you on the screen here. But this is something that I made last year. And just one quick note on this, it is a little bit, I would say, short, the pattern. Like I may have done 1 extra cable if I were to make it again. So that's something to note for you. I like to wear this on days where, like, for instance, later this afternoon, I'm going to a brewery with some of my friends. We're just going to hang out and knit. And this is a perfect thing to wear inside because though it doesn't fully cover like my ears, it's really nice and fun to hang out in if you're just kind of wanting to wear a beanie inside. So just something to note there. I do have videos on this one, but if I were to make again, I would add 1 more cable. Then I'm also wearing, this is the California sweater by Knit California. And this I made also last year. This is 1 strand of like a superwash merino wool, a hand-dyed yarn held with 1 strand of Knitting for Olive mohair. And it's just perfect for this time of year. 1, because of this color. Obviously, it's so clearly fall, but also like it's fun with that hand-dyed yarn mixed in there. And then with the gauge of this sweater, it's a little bit more of an open gauge. I feel like it's just the perfect transitional piece. It's also a really good layering piece. I find it so easy to pair with like a vest, pair with something underneath it, like a button up or anything. It's just like the perfect gauge for me. I really love this kind of more open gauge. And so yeah, that is this one. Honestly, probably one of my #1 worn garments. So thank you to Leslie for designing this. I love this sweater and I hope to make another one again someday. Lots of videos on this one as well. And then lastly, underneath it, I'm actually wearing another garment by Knit California. I am wearing the Palm Springs tank underneath it. And this I knit in just 1 strand of Knitting for Olive merino. And this is like a perfect layering piece for fall winter. So I had a friend, my friend Courtney, she mentioned like, hey, I just started wearing my knit tanks under my sweaters for this year. And I forgot that's one of the reasons why I knit these tank tops to begin with, was just thinking like these tanks out of this wonderful merino yarn. It's so soft, so good next to skin, but just adds another nice layer. Just break it up from maybe some other typical like cotton tank tops or t-shirts I normally wear under my knits. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like that's why I knit them in the first place. So I've been wearing it now, and I love that this Palm Springs tank, it doesn't super do it with this sweater, but this one has like a pretty high neckline. And so if you like to have just like a little bit of your undershirt kind of showing with a sweater, it's really cute in that instance. Like you could totally have like some cute contrasting colors going on. This one I clearly made in this like beige color, so love it if it sticks out, but also okay if it doesn't. But yeah, I love the high neck of this tank with this. So I know a ton of people knit Palm Springs tanks after I recommended them kind of spring, summer, but you know, it's something cool to have on your needles too for fall, winter, because it can be a really nice layering piece. So yeah, just another plug quick for Knit California. She's one of my friends here on YouTube, but I also think that she is just a very skilled designer and she cares about what she's making. And yeah, I just love wearing them. So that is my knit fit for today. And now getting into some of of my whips. I have 4 whips that I'll be discussing with you today. 2 that I worked on a little bit more this past week, 2 that have just kind of made some progress. I believe 2 actually you guys haven't even seen yet. So I'm a little excited to just jump on into it. So let's do that. The first one is, one you haven't seen yet. However, I was on a work trip this past week, and whenever I travel lately, after I first did this when I went to Flock, I cast on a 1x1 ribbed hat, and it was such an ideal travel knit. You know, it's right away, you basically cast on, you're in the round, you're good to go, and it was just so easy to bring with me everywhere when I was in Seattle. And so I was like, you know what, I think I'm going to do that for this trip. So I went to California for a week to go to the Adobe Max conference. And what was really cool about it is my career is creative, and obviously this is creative too. I also create clearly in sort of an analog style where I'm knitting, I'm sewing, I'm making things with my hands, but clearly another creative asset of my life is creating things digitally through video and through graphics that I do at work. So it was such a cool conference for me because I got to learn things that obviously apply to my daily career, but I make videos for fun too. So got to take some cool Premiere Pro classes, and that's what I'm editing this video on. And so it's just fun. You know, hopefully I'll be testing and trying some new things in the future to make these videos better for you guys. Just a really fulfilling and fun trip for me as a creative. I've been using Adobe products for 10 years, so it was just like such a gift to get to go. And this is the 1x1 hat that I was making. So I actually cast on the Manhattan hat by Tori Yu, and here is what I have so far. I mean, honestly, I'm pretty close. I'm getting really good with it. And I cast this on using this Utopia. This is their brand new line of folk yarn, and I saw this Wisconsin sheep and wool, and I was just so excited. The feel of it feels sheepy, but it also has this like hand-dyed sort of flair to it. And this skein that I picked up is called Tapestry. And when I tell you, when I saw this, it was just like, oh yes, like these are all of my favorite colors. I mean, they're just, Tapestry is such a good name for it, because they're really those deep sort of colors within it, like emerald green, burgundy, brown. But then there's like some really pretty things that I think of when I see vintage art, vintage tapestries, where it's that vivid kind of like purples, blues, and reds, golds. And so a really kind of eclectic skein of yarn. But yeah, I saw this color and I felt it, and the way that this yarn was sort of in the skein, you can tell when a yarn is going to stripe versus when it's variegated. And I'll put this up on the screen to show you. Whenever there's like lines going through the skein, that's when you know it's gonna stripe. If it's kind of more splotchy, then you know it's gonna look more like splotchy variegated, if that makes sense. So I'll leave an example of what this looked like in the skein up on the screen. So I knew it was gonna stripe in some manner, but I really did not know what it was gonna look like. So it was kind of fun to test that out. And then the last time I made a 1x1 ribbed hat, I had used the Weekend hat, again weekend, but this was a different Weekend hat by Petite Knit. And so I was just like, you know, I loved that hat, but I just would be open to maybe trying another one. And this one by Tori Yu has these unique decreases. So what you'll notice between like these different 1x1 hats is they're all basically the same getting started. What you're gonna find is different between them is maybe how many folds they have up. Maybe it's 1 or 2 folds. Some will have a different way of casting on. Like maybe it'll be a tubular cast on, though you could always just do your standard cast on, whatever cast on you are comfortable with. And then another way they'll differentiate themselves is how they're doing the decreases. So sometimes it's a more stylistic decrease. Sometimes it's one that's more in pattern that you wouldn't really see. This one for the Manhattan hat, I felt like was a really cool sort of stylistic decrease where it kind of goes up into a nice point, into a fashion that's like, I think pretty popular among knitters right now. It is just kind of a little bit more of a pointy style. So yeah, that is what I have for this. And you can see it's striping up so cool. And yeah, this yarn has been like wonderful to work in. It's nice and spongy, kind of like bounces back really nice. The texture alone has made me want to look at this yarn and see, do I have any projects that I'm interested in coming up? This is a DK weight yarn, and I believe is all Wisconsin sheep. Then they ship it somewhere else in the US to process, and then it's brought back to Wisconsin to dye. So yeah, just like an interesting process with that. But whenever I find a yarn that feels so good, I'm loving the way that it's working up. It is a woolen spun yarn, which I just really like the feel of. I'm learning, and like it just appeals to my values. I am interested in trying it yet again. So yeah, I might be purchasing some more of this folk yarn, but I'm just about, I think I have 1.5 inches more to go before I start the decreases. So very, very close on this one. And yeah, like I said, I mean, it's 40 degrees out, so I'm excited to have something to wear on some more walks. I'm really building up my hand knit hat wardrobe, and it's just fun to have some different colors and things to wear. This is like, it's kind of fun to knit something so colorful because it almost feels more like a neutral, you know, like this will go with so many of my outfits, especially I just have a ton of like more plain, like solid color clothes. So it's fun to have accessories like this that feel like it's gonna jazz up my outfit a little bit to wear something so colorful and stripey and fun. So yeah, I think that is everything with this weekend hat. Yeah, looking forward to doing some of my decreases and kind of seeing it take shape a little bit more. So that's that. Next, let's go into a garment that you haven't seen yet either. All right, so next I have for you the Cognac Cardigan, and actually very similar to this top that I'm wearing, the California sweater. This is also knit on a very similar sort of open gauge style. So I am knitting this using US 9 or 5.5 millimeter needles. I think the pattern recommends a US 10, but after my swatch, I decided to go down a needle size. And I am knitting this holding 2 yarns together. One is a fingering weight hand-dyed yarn, and another is a very like fluffy Surrey type of yarn. I'll leave details for all of these on the screen. They're kind of complex, especially this cloud yarn is a more complex sort of yarn, has a really cool makeup, but together they make a really gorgeous sort of cranberry type of sweater. And so I've been lovingly calling this my Thanksgiving sweater. I'm hoping I can get it finished before then, though I did just tell you no more deadlines for myself. So this is a hopeful Thanksgiving, but I'm not going to be too hard on myself. I clearly have other sweaters I could wear to Thanksgiving. But yeah, this is everything that I have done so far. Look at this. I still think I haven't shown you this yet. So you're first knitting that back with the short rows, then you're picking up fronts. And what was unique, and I'll have to see exactly what kind of sleeve this is, was you pick up the side for like the side of the arm, very similar to like when you're picking up in the heel flap of a sock. So that's totally what it reminded me of. You're kind of like almost turning and picking up the side, and it makes this really nice sleeve cap here. So I'll have to see exactly what this type of sleeve is. Maybe it's a set-in sleeve. I'll have to see. No, not setting, because you would set that. I'll see, and I'll put it up on the screen. I'm kind of learning along with you here on this one, but it looks very beautiful. It's kind of capped really nicely. And then once you have that, you're doing like typical sort of raglan style increases. And let's see here. yeah, so it was nice. It was really easy to follow. I was able to just put in my markers. You're kind of increasing on either sides of different markers at different times, depending on what size that you're knitting. But it's very, very easy to follow and very fun to knit in that you can kind of know exactly where you are and how much further along you have to go before you're ready to split for sleeves. So I did finally split for sleeves, and I'll put a couple pictures up here. I did end up trying it on, just making sure we were good to go, and we are. And now I'm finally sort of not in the round, but now I'm split for sleeves and I'm ready to just go back and forth. And that's always really nice because you go from having a ton of stitches to splitting for sleeves and to just having, you know, a nice set, a much more easier set to go back and forth on. And I would say, like, if I wasn't working on a couple other things I'm working on, I would love to just only have this on right now because it feels good to knit on. This yarn is so soft. It works up pretty fast because of the gauge. And so it's satisfying to watch it knit up. And yeah, I want it to be top of my list right now, but I think this one I'm making for my husband might be the actual top. It might get a little bit more of my attention, but I might just break it up this week because I'm having some fun with this one as well. So yeah, that is this sweater. I do have two options that I'm thinking of when it comes to the actual button band. So you can do just like a normal ribbed button band. You can also do an I-cord. And then I believe the designer has also released an edition that has like a little bit of a tie, which was kind of trendy this year. I think for me, the one that would get the most sort of wear would be the ribbed. So I do think that is going to be what I'm going to do. But yeah, for anyone interested, I do think this sort of gauge, and depending what kind of colors you select, I do think it would be a really beautiful kind of dressier cardigan too. I think I could see somebody making it like, if you really needed a sort of top layer to go with a dress or something more fancy, I could see that bow style or even the I-cord style making a really, really beautiful sort of cardigan to go with a dress or something like a little bit more fancy. And then if you did that, I think it would be so beautiful too if you did a little bit more of a balloon sleeve with it too. So for me, I'm going to make this a little bit more of a regular, like everyday sort of style, but yeah, I think that would be so beautiful in that one as well. Okay, so next what I have is the beautiful, stunning, this is the Traveler Cowl. And I am knitting this out of Spin Cycle yarn. This is dyed in the wool. And this is a little fun thing they did for Halloween this year. It's the Something Wicked colorway by their Wololo colorway. And so it's kind of a mixture of oranges, greens. I thought it was brown when I ordered it, but it really reads more like a deep, deep purple brown. And then some like really gorgeous teals in there as well. So I'm knitting this out of 3 skeins of yarn, and so far I finished one whole one. I am almost finished with my second one here, and then lastly I'm expecting to get into this third one quite a bit. And I've finished quite a lot of this, I think. Let's see, let me show you the front side of it. So this is my cowl here. Look at this. Wow, that's looking really beautiful. This, I mean, working with Spin Cycle or any sort of color changing yarn, man, it's kind of a trip, right? You don't know what's gonna happen. You know what it looks like in the skein, but I have a really hard time still imagining, how is that gonna work up? How often are the colors gonna change? How big are your sections gonna be when they change? So it's just been really fun. If you are in any sort of rut in your knitting, I highly recommend this sort of project because yeah, I think it's really joyful and fun to see how everything is switching and working along, and you're really just in it for the ride. You can't have too much control on it. So I feel like it's good for those of us who have, who just really want to control our projects, or you get kind of anxious and you really want it to look a certain way. I think it's a really nice break from that, and you just let the yarn be what it's gonna be. And honestly, like no matter what, these show up colorful and beautiful in my opinion. So what I have got so far is, it's very similar to any of those other Andrea Mowry style cowls where it's almost like a handkerchief style. It goes to a point in the middle and you're ending up seaming it in the back. And I'm almost finished with my increases here, and then I'll be able to start my decreases. So I keep measuring it, thinking that I'm close, and I'm just not quite all the way there. And I brought this to my conference as well, but it was just easier to carry around the hat. So I didn't get a ton of work on it this week, though it has been something really fun that I've been working on just as I've been like excited for Halloween, and now Halloween has passed, but it's still just some fun fall sort of colorways, and really a lot of my favorite colors with these teals, greens, browns, and oranges. Like it's very, very Jacque to me. One other thing I wanted to note with this, so if you haven't knit the Traveler pattern before, you're basically going in and out of making a stockinette fabric with a garter fabric. And I had actually a couple of friends say to me when they've knit the Traveler style things that it's been hard for them because they've had to continually look at the pattern and kind of check it off and that sort of thing. And once I knew that, they told me that before I started knitting it, I knew going into it, I hate patterns like that, right? Like I hate always having my phone out or a pattern out and having to like check it off. It makes it so much harder for me to have that meditative and fun time knitting. And especially for like an accessory, I'm like, man, like I really want to be able to take this around and not have that happen. And so I actually felt like this was easy to memorize and to learn. And so what I did to do that, and maybe this will be helpful to you, maybe it won't, but for me, it's very similar to when I am learning something in school, or say like I'm learning something like scientific at work, to just break down what you're reading into something that's going to make sense to you. A lot of the times when we're reading patterns, I think why they get confusing to us is because it's not a language that we would write it in or that we would get used to. And yeah, it's almost like you're not calculating it in the same way. You're not getting it. And so what I like to do is rewrite it in a way that makes sense to me and to really break it down and understand what's happening. It's very similar if you've ever had to memorize anything. I grew up going to a church where we had to memorize a lot of Bible verses, and I think of it like this because in order to memorize something, whether it's for that or for school or whatever, you have to understand the context in which it's happening, right? You can't if you just memorize words, this could also apply if you're an actress or an actor. If you're memorizing just words, it's hard to remember the next line because you don't know what's happening. So for this, if you actually understand the context of what's happening, it's so much easier to memorize what's going on. So for this one, why it can be hard for some people is because whether or not you're doing knits or purls is dependent on which side you're on, the right side or the wrong side. So it's helpful for me to know when I'm looking at this, okay, on the right side, I always need to have 3 rows of knits and 2 rows of purls. Now, depending on if I'm on the right side, that means if I'm on a row that needs a knit, I'm gonna knit. However, if I'm on the right side and I need a row of purls, that means I am going to be purling. However, if you are on the wrong side, you know that means it's gonna be opposite. So you can quick turn it to the front and say, okay, wait, I still need one more line of stockinette. That means I am actually going to be purling on the back. But if you look at it and you're like, I need one more line of garter, that means you're gonna be knitting on the back, right? You're gonna make it so it's opposite. So it's showing up purls on the front. So I hope I didn't just confuse you there, but all just to say, read your knitting from the front. You're knowing, again, those 2 sections, and then you're kind of teaching yourself, okay, what's happening? Where am I increasing? Am I increasing on just one side? Okay, I know I'm only increasing on the right side, that sort of thing. And then you're always working, maybe you have an I chord on your outsides, you're always working your I chords. That's very easy to memorize. You know how those work. So then it just gets into this rhythm of, okay, for a very long time, I'm going to be working this, and you just need to look at your knitting. Hey, where am I? Okay, that's what I'm going to be doing. So yeah, I don't know if that was helpful for you all. If not, I would be happy to make a video to kind of break down even further how I would maybe write it down, break it down even further. But just know, like, you guys, you are all so capable of doing this, of understanding your knitting, of, just like breaking it down for yourself and just comprehending, okay, this is the story, this is what I'm creating. And so you just have to follow that and work along with it. And really the pattern is broken down into all of those lines in case you get stuck. But a lot of times a 10-row repeat will be a lot easier than you think it is if you just learn where those things are. Another way that I can help myself too is maybe I'll go through looking at those 10 rows and I'll highlight, okay, I'm increasing these rows. What's unique about those rows? How will I be able to see that when I'm reading my knitting? That sort of thing. So yeah, I hope maybe that just encourages you. It helps me a ton to break down, take a minute, really understand what I'm knitting. So it just makes it easier on myself in the long run. And I hope it does for you too. Okay, so that is the beautiful Traveler cowl. There's a whole line of Traveler different items. If you haven't seen them, there's a Traveler. It's almost like a shell. It's like a cardigan style. There's also that really cool hoodie. So some fun ones to check out. And once you learn the pattern repeat, I think it would be fun to create some different garments in that sort of pattern, because it's squishy and it's stretchy and it's really looks very cool. It's like stripes, but in pattern. So very unique and fun. All right. Lastly, what I have for you is that amazing Linka Neumann pattern that I'm making for my husband. So this is, let's see here, what I've got so far. And this is the Qanik by Linka Neumann. And I am knitting this out of Alafas Lopi, which is the bulky Lopi yarn. So this is 100% Icelandic wool in a pretty bulky strand. And I am making him, this is like an outerwear style garment. So it's like a cardigan, but it has a hood. And with this bulky style yarn, oh man, I just think this is gonna be so warm and such a classic piece. So here is what I have so far. My nice steek stitches there in the middle. And how this started was I did some color work on the bottom here, and then I went right into the body and have just, done some steeking here in the middle. And now I am just knitting to a certain length. And once I get there, I will be ready to kind of attach my arms. And since it's the bottom up, you'll kind of set your arms on the sides and then put all on the needle then, and then I'll be doing some decreasing to get into the sleeves. I did already cast on a bottom of a sleeve, and I think what I'm going to do is do this yet again, create another bottom of the sleeve. I mentioned in my last podcast, sometimes it can be hard for me mentally to like just fully do one, fully do another, and kind of have to remember the steps that I took to do that initial one. So my plan for this is, this is a fully complete color work on this. Now I'm ready to go into that green and kind of just make my sleeve from there. But I'm thinking what would be nice is to just put this on some scrap yarn and then just have it, ready to go, but cast on my other sleeve, have that done. And then, I'll just be ready to zoom and get them both going. And it's kind of fun to do things bottom up because like once you get this, like I could just carry this around with the green and just carry a sleeve around, which is always really nice because typically on a top-down sweater, you're really, if you have to carry around a sweater that needs sleeves, you're carrying that whole thing. So that is one of the really fun things about a bottom-up sweater. Not a ton to report on this just because I've really been on the round in the Qanik. But I have been enjoying this yarn. The needles are a little bit bigger. I'm using a US 11 for the color work, and then I go back to a US 10 for the overall body of the yarn. And you do feel it on your hands because it's a little bit thicker, but the way that Lopi feels to knit with, I think is so comfortable. And you'll hear so many people complaining about Lopi in the knitting world because of the nature of the yarn. It can be a little bit scratchier. And if you're unfamiliar, I think it's really fun to learn about why this yarn is like this. So if you're interested, I recommend looking it up. These Icelandic sheep, like the very basic 5-year-old version, is these Icelandic sheep, like because of where they live, it can be so misty and wet. Their coat is kind of double layered with these shorter strands that keep them warm, but then they have these longer strands that kind of push the moisture off. And so why a lot of people will say that it's kind of scratchy or irritates them is because of those long fibers kind of sticking out of it. So that's what makes this yarn amazing for outerwear pieces, because it's going to keep that moisture off of you, but then it's going to have that insulating sort of properties to it as well. But if you get over that and you know that about it, it makes you respect the yarn. Like for me, I just respect the yarn so much because I know that it is 100% Icelandic wool and comes from these sheep, and it's just like it's so cool nature-wise to know that that's why the qualities are the way that they are. And because of that, truly this like, especially in this bulky weight, it's meant to be an outerwear sort of piece, meant to have clothing worn underneath it and not to be worn next to skin. So of course you're going to hate this yarn if you wear it next to skin, but really that's not like the point of it and what it's designed for. And if you can withstand a woolly wool, I feel like it's just worth it, right? Like the properties that you are going to get to benefit from are worth it, because it's going to wool is the way that it is, because it's going to a woolier wool is going to last longer. It's going to be warmer. It's going to, like all of these things make it why we knit with wool and why it's great. So I just like to stand up for the woolly wool on my little corner of the internet, because I hear so many people only knitting with the super soft stuff. And so it's nice to be a little bit of an advocate over here. Living in a cold climate where I am, I just so see the value of it and I appreciate it for what it is, and I love it. So that is all of my 4 whips today. I thought it would be nice to have a more laid back, old school podcast today, where I just went through things that I'm working on with you right now. I am very excited to continue to make this week and to have some fires in my home. Just turn on the fireplace and sit and knit and kind of get a couple of these things finished. Like I mentioned, I'm going to a brewery later. I think I'm going to work on this Qanik for my husband. I would really, really love to finish out this hat and get really going on this Qanik so that I could continue moving into some other things. But let me know, what are you guys working on? What are you excited about? What sort of yarns are you loving right now that you think that I should try? I'm always interested in what you have to say. And if you haven't heard me say this before, thank you always to those of you that take the time to comment on my videos. Makes me feel like I'm actually talking to an audience, and you see those numbers, but actually seeing people comment and hear from you, it makes me feel like we have a little shared sort of community here where we share in what we're making, and it's super fun. So thank you all for being here. I will see you all in the next podcast episode with some more updates on everything that I am making. If you're not subscribed yet, please subscribe so that you never miss a video from me, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.